the right thing. I'm joined by former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus, who will be Tennessee's next congresswoman from the 5th Congressional District. She is running for the 5th Congressional District. Good morning, Morgan. What do you make of Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
Well, it's something that I think we've all seen coming for weeks now, but I don't think that we should allow you, knowing that it was coming, I don't think we should pause to underscore just how important this is in a pivotal moment of history. You know, I really honestly had a hard time falling asleep last night. I was trying to think of, is this exactly almost 6 months from when Kabul fell to the Taliban? And listen, I've been in these jobs before. I've been there with Mike Pompeo. I know what it's like to deal with various crises around the world. But I always felt and knew that we had a strong and steady hand in President Trump, in Mike Pompeo, that would see these crises through. No matter what, I had that, in my gut. And I don't have this feeling with this team. I see error after error after error that this team has made. And now, you see the Russians have, once again, on the same group of people who were in power during the second term of the Obama administration, he has decided to invade again. And I think it's no coincidence that he waited for this team to be in charge again.
Now, we've got a number of reactions. For example, editor-at-large at CQ, John Bennett, reports the White House is engaged in an eye dance, meaning that the Russian troop movement is called the beginning of an invasion by the Deputy National Security Advisor Feiner. Richard Grinnell says temporarily halting the certification of Nord Stream 2 is a small step in the right direction, but it's purely temporary and it's entirely too late. The Brits sanctioned a grand total of 3 oligarchs. Well, are we going to do this or aren't we, Morgan?
Yeah, it's not the response that's needed. Listen, this response should have been months ago. And this started at the very beginning of the Biden administration. We had done something in the Trump administration. We left a treaty called INF, which you know all about, because we said, listen, this is an arms control treaty. The Russians are cheating. We're not going to stay in it. So when it came time to re-up another treaty called New START, we had Marshall Billingsley at the State Department negotiating that. And by the way, all the stuff that the Russians are putting on the table right now, wanting to negotiate the size of our troop presence and our missile defense systems and the size of NATO, all of those things they tried to put on the table with Pompeo and Marshall Billingsley, and we told them to pound sand. And we said we're not going to just renew New START without negotiations, without some concessions. What did the Biden administration do? They came in, they just renewed New START. They got nothing for it, no negotiating, just redid it. And then, of course, you saw Nord Stream 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing I want to make clear, Hugh, is that a lot of people, there's a lot of revisionist history on cable television about, especially on the left right now, about what Trump did or didn't do with Russia. Let's make it really clear. Trump kicked out 60 Russian diplomats and spies. We left the INF treaty, as I just talked about, $1.4 billion in military assistance. My last count, this is an official count, this is just my count going through all my statements, there was at least 30 rounds of sanctions and indictments. And in year one of the Biden administration, where he said, he's supposed to be the toughest there ever was on Russia, we've had no real sanctions on the Russian economy. They stayed in New START. They didn't get anything for it, as we talked about. And I've seen Jake Sullivan delay or stall Ukrainian military assistance at least 3 times in the past year. So tell me, when you look at the facts, not at the rhetoric, not at the tweets, when you look at the facts, who is tougher on Russia?
Well, this is why I am a little bit amazed by the reaction to a tweet I posted on Friday, Morgan Ortagus. Legacy media is going to have a very tough time working around the fact that the tyrant Putin invaded Ukraine in 2014 and will do so again in 2022, but did not do so between 2017 and 2020. Why was Putin deterred in those years, but not now or 2014? Don't expect a lot of analysis. 2 million impressions later, and thousands of angry responses and about double the number of applause. You can't work around it. He didn't do this when Trump was in office.
That's exactly right. And it wasn't just theater, right? This theater in Europe, when you start to look around the world, I think that we're a week, maybe 2 weeks away from this administration bypassing Congress and trying to put us back into the disastrous JCPOA, the otherwise known as the Iran deal. And that's not just And it's not the JCPOA that Obama negotiated. It's a much weaker deal. And so that, in my mind, we handed peace over to the very peaceful Middle East over to the Biden administration, right? We were part of Abraham Accords, 4 deals between Israel and Arab states, the first in 26 years. And what happens when Biden takes over? Within 3 months, Hamas is hitting Israel. Within 7 months, Kabul spawns to the Taliban. A year later, you see what looks like now the Russian incursion in Europe into Ukraine. So this is a disaster. And by the way, this is the reason why President Biden should have held someone on his national security team responsible for the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I don't know if this is Sullivan. I don't know if this is Blinken. I don't know who this is, but this is an incompetent team.
And you just mentioned something. We are going to get the triptych, the triple play, the hat trick. Afghanistan collapse, Ukrainian invasion, Iranian sanctions relief. We're going to give billions of dollars to a terrorist state and get nothing. When they're on their back, they're literally dying of lack of revenue. And Wendy, what else can I do for you from the United States? Sherman is going to resurrect that. It's unbelievable, Morgan Ortagus.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, everybody should pay attention to what sanctions are relieved under under the new, I don't want to say the new JCPOA, the weaker, the worse JCPOA, because if they take away the terrorism-related sanctions, I think that is a big problem and sends a signal to terrorist regimes around the world that our terrorism sanctions aren't to be taken seriously. The Iranian regime has done nothing to deserve getting rid of the state sponsor of terrorism designation, the Quds Force terrorism designation, and all the various terrorism sanctions. Listen, there are ways in which a terrorist group can say, you know what, we've turned from our ways, we've turned from our evil ways, we want to get back into polite society. It can work towards getting rid of sanctions by stopping the funding and assisting in training and betting of terrorism. If you go to talk to anyone in the Iranian regime right now, they would laugh at you, right? They have no intention of stopping aiding and betting terrorism. They don't feel sad about it. They don't feel guilty. They don't want to turn from their ways. That's state practice. That's what they do.
Now, Morgan Ortagus, you are running in Tennessee's 5th District for Congress. I have already put my T-shirt together, the Democratic T-shirt. Inflation at home, appeasement abroad, school unions first, students last, open southern borders, closed police precincts. That's the Democratic agenda. But when you run in Tennessee, does anyone care about Iran and Ukraine and China, or do they want to just talk about inflation and the fact that their kids lost years under the COVID regime of school districts and Anthony Fauci?
Well, I mean, listen, certainly inflation and supply chain issues are top of mind jobs and economy for everybody here in Tennessee, as they should, right? I think I talked to you a couple weeks ago, and I said, listen, you shouldn't have to go to the grocery store and make choices about are you going to fill up the cart with groceries or are you going to fill up your tank of gas all the way, right? These are not decisions that moms like me in Tennessee should have to make, and unfortunately they are. When you talk about national security, which is clearly, my experience, look at our border, right? Look at our immigration problem. There are many things that President Trump did to fix the border that he had control of when the Biden team took over. Part of that was the stuff that Mike Pompeo and our team did. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this morning, Secretary Pompeo endorsed me in my race.
I didn't. So congratulations.
Yeah. Breaking news on your show, Hugh.
Do you know what? I love that he's going to Taiwan, Morgan. Can you carve out time to go with him? I know you're running for Congress. It's kind of hard to go abroad.
If Ward Baker will allow me to go to Taiwan, I would, but I don't think he will.
No, they don't let candidates leave the country, do they?
No, not yet. But listen, but to go back to the border, we did things like the Remain in Mexico agreement, asylum cooperation agreements with the Northern Triangle countries. President Trump said to his team, we have to secure this border, and we all took a piece of that pie, right, of what it meant to get the job done for the president, and we did. So if you're listening and you're in Tennessee and you care about illegal immigration, you care about fentanyl coming over the border, you care about the human trafficking, I would argue that I'm the best candidate to help solve the border crisis, having already done it.
You are the best candidate. MorganOrtagus.com. Morgan, Trump endorsed, Pompeo endorsed by every Republican I know. She is going to win that seat. MorganOrtagus.com. Go there, contribute, Get in line. If you're one of the newcomers to Tennessee, this is a great way to make your entrance in Tennessee politics with a lady who will be representing the great volunteer state for decades to come, MorganOrtagus.com. Thank you, Morgan. Coming right back. America, stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show.